And what is going on, Man Hour Nation? Ooh, not Man Hour Nation. Man, oh man. I'm so used to the old damn show. What is going on, Chicago? What is going on, friends of Cubs and Fitz, Windy City Sports Talk? We got to come up with a cool slogan like I did with Man Hour Nation. We got to come up with something catchy, something for me to welcome the fans on. Oh, God. I got to get used to all this new stuff. And what is this StreamYard thing that's going on up here? What is going on right now? Everything is weird. All right. But anyway, I digress. This is what we get when we're an up-and-coming show. We don't know what the hell to say sometimes. But we've got a great show lined up for you guys. We got myself, my guy, Ryan Fizgibberish. We're going to break down the Cubs and the White Sox. We are also going to get into what Fitz is promising to be the best Fizgibberish of all time. The best Fizgibberish of all time is coming to us live. Let me bring on my guy, Ryan Fizgibberish. What's going on, Ryan? Oh, dude, you have no sound right now. You're on mute. Frickin' rookie.
Here we go. I'm here now.
There you go.
Got a little unplugged there. It happened.
It was going to be the best Fizgibberish ever is because you're going to unplug your mic.
Putting a lot, because there's no audio coming out. You're putting a lot of strain on me now. Now I have to deliver. Now it seems bad.
You told me that this Fizgibberish might be the best Fizgibberish you've ever written. So, I just want to make sure that once we get to that segment, which we will get to, that it was hyped up to be what it was supposed to be. Yeah. Doubting Thomas will yell at us. I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of people in the chat. We're going to be previewing the Cubs and the White Sox tonight. Season starts Thursday, man. I am pumped. Look, my birthday is Wednesday. You just celebrated your birthday this past week.
Yeah.
So we get to celebrate our birthdays within a 1-week span. And then the day after my birthday, we have opening day. So to me, out of the 3 days, that's probably the best day of the 3. Not going to lie. I'm looking more forward to celebrating opening day and sitting in front of my TV with beer and hot dogs and nachos, sitting everywhere watching baseball for 12 hours.
Yes, absolutely. I cannot wait for baseball. It kind of snuck up on me a little bit there. With the World Baseball Classic, all that, more to come on that. But I'm glad it's basically here now. 4 days?
Yeah.
And, we got baseball, man. We can watch baseball.
Dude, I'm so pumped right now. I'm so pumped.
Yeah, it is.
We've got, and before that, tomorrow, if you really wanted to, it's spring training baseball, but you could see the Cubs and the White Sox play each other one more time.
Yeah, you could. And then, I don't care about those games. Right now in spring training, like everybody's healthy, and I just want people to stay healthy, especially with the season that the Sox had last year. That was, oh my God, painful. 23 out of the 26 opening day starters were hurt for a lengthy period of time, including, Tim Anderson only played 90 games.
Yeah.
It's a tough season, man. Moncada has a stiff back yesterday, although that guy runs the first base and something gets stiff or hurt. But I was hoping that wasn't going to happen this year, but it looks good. They look healthy. They look ready to go. Both teams, pretty healthy, can't really complain. Other than the Liam Hendricks thing and, Clevenger throwing Chaw. We thought we were going to lose him. But I don't think he's going to be a real big piece after a winner this year.
Yeah, luckily for White Sox fans, they don't have to worry about their number 5 starter beating his wife or throwing, spit up chew at his son. They're going to let him pitch anyways. So, they don't have to lose that guy.
Yeah, let's just let that go. I don't know what to say about that.
Let that go, man.
It is. The guy is. Well, when I texted you it, I don't think you had known it yet that he wasn't, because we just figured he was going to get suspended.
Yeah,
he didn't get suspended, and it's the guy's still a fucking douchebag, though. I mean,
Right.
and do you
Right.
really want a guy like that on your team in your locker room?
I
And
don't
they
want a
said,
guy like that anywhere near me, my team, my locker room, my family, my
children.
kids, my wife. Like, I don't want any part of this guy. And, and look, honest, I'm a Cubs fan, right? Like wearing the Cubs hat, I got the Cubs stuff in the background. Like I'm not a diehard White Sox fan, but I do still like the White Sox. I enjoy watching White Sox baseball. I love Tim Anderson, one of my favorite players in all of the game. But every fifth day when Mike Clevenger is taking the mound, I don't know that I can watch the game. I don't know that I can root for that guy to win.
It's tough in the same week that the Blackhawks decide not to do Pride Month, but let their players get raped. I would not to be. I guess I'm all over the map already today. But that's not a good look. But anyway,
no, it's not. But
starting, it's going to be hard for me too because I do think the guy's a fucking douchebag. He totally is.
Yeah.
I think some of that stuff probably did happen. Was it as bad? As his wife said, it might not be, or it's not provable enough to where he did get suspended. Who knows what's going to happen down the line legally?
Yeah,
this is just Major League Baseball. Boy, that'll look bad for Major League Baseball. If he does get arrested or some legal action is done against him and they let him play. So
right, and that's in the White Sox, more than the Cubs, I believe, are a team that people are expecting to contend.
Yep.
In 2023. And the pitching staff for the White Sox is where it's really going to get interesting, right? Because you start worrying about, can Giolito rebound from the tough season he had last year? Can Michael Kopech be the guy that everybody is expecting Michael Kopech to be? And he's looked fantastic this spring. Michael Kopech has looked really good this spring. And then you get down to Mike Clevenger, right? You get into that bullpen there where you've got Joe Kelly and Aaron Bummer. Can Joe Kelly rebound? He had a pretty bad first year with the White Sox last year.
Yeah. They basically spotted him a year, which I don't think was smart.
No,
he had nerve damage in his arm, and they thought he was going to come back and be better, for the home stretch there at the end of the year, and he just couldn't pitch strikes. Really, I mean, that was the biggest issue with him. And then when he did pitch strikes, he was missing in the zone, which is the worst thing you can do in baseball.
Yeah.
And he got hit around. I mean, it got nasty stuff. You cannot deny that. High 90s fastball, great splitter. The ball dances all over the plate. But yeah, I mean, it's hard controlling that too. And I think that's where he had his trouble, and he was still injured.
Yeah, and look, the closer situation is going to be sticky. It's right now, I believe slated to be the closer is probably Kendall Graveman, maybe Ronaldo Lopez. I'm not sure, but Liam Hendricks, man, that's a big loss for the White Sox. What are you expecting to see from this pitching staff? I mean, you're the White Sox guy. You're our resident White Sox expert.
Put more pressure on me.
What do you expect to see from this pitching staff? Like, who is your bright spot right now on this pitching staff, aside from Dylan Cease, who we all know is probably going to be a Cy Young candidate again this season?
It's hard to say that Lance Lynn has a bounce back year because his year really wasn't that bad when you take out his first few starts back from being hurt. He was out 2 months. The bad thing about last year is they got off on a really bad footing. They had a manager who just did not know how to handle a pitching staff anymore. But let's put that aside. Giolito with an oblique strain, misses a month, was never right. He's still not, his fastball it's still not hitting the mid 90s like it was when he had those good years, which is troubling. If anybody's troubling, but Lance Lynn is the guy I look at to really lead the staff, even though Dylan Cease is going to have the first game, which he deserves. He's going to play the first game against Houston, 6 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, which should be a good game. But I'm looking for Lance Lynn to really have a very good bounce back year. The guy throws a lot of strikes. He doesn't throw a lot of off-speed pitches at all, really.
Yeah.
So that's why he's traditionally not been hurt. And last year, he didn't even hurt his arm, really. There was nothing in his arm. It was his knee that he needed surgery on. Hurt it at the end of spring training. It was just bad luck. And then was like doing a spring training in the major leagues for a couple of starts because they needed him back so badly. And he went on a 10-game stretch at the end of the year. But I'm really looking for him to lead the staff this year.
Yeah. Look, for me, Lance Lynn is a guy who, we watched in the World Baseball Classic, and as long as he's not grooving fastballs to guys from Venezuela, he will be just fine. I really like the Chicago White Sox team. I really do. Yeah. I think they're going to be the best team in the city to watch this year. I think that they are probably going to have the deepest run in October this year, if the Cubs even make it to an October. And I'm interested to see what this pitching staff is like without Tony La Russa totally mismanaging it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I am interested to see how Giolito, how Lance Lynn, how these guys respond to knowing that they don't have a manager that is going to either A, leave them in too long, or B, pull them out too early. Mm-hmm. Or C, call them to walk a guy on a 1-2 count. Like that to me is going to be the confidence. Yeah, it's going to be the most interesting thing for me. I really like this White Sox bullpen too. I do. I think Joe Kelly is probably the biggest question mark in this bullpen. I think it's, he might be a guy who, when he was signed, made a name for himself because of his antics on the field more than he did a name for himself because of how he was pitching. We all loved the Carlos Correa thing, right? Like the lip as he's walking away after he strikes him out, where he's giving him the face with the pouty lip. You know what I mean? Like, we love that stuff. And that stuff would really play on the south side of Chicago, would it not? Like, if something like that were to happen in the south side of Chicago, we would be having this guy run for mayor instead of the two idiots we have running for one now, right? like we would absolutely love Joe Kelly to be Joe Kelly, but he's got to pitch well. And I don't know that Joe Kelly really has that left in him.
Like I said, his stuff was still pretty much there. It was just I think the injury played a factor in it. He's through a lot. Like I said, he could not hit the strike zone. His control was not there. Maybe with an off season, him being healthy, you don't need him to be the main guy, even in a bullpen that lost its closer. And I have a question for you. Do you think Liam Hendricks plays this year?
I don't. I've seen guys come back from this, but look, what he's going through is really, really tough. Mm-hmm. What he is going through right now is something that, you never really wish on anybody, right? And I hope he has a speedy recovery. I hope that we get to see him pitch this year. It'd be a great story. I think if the White Sox are in a pennant race, if the White Sox are, let's say it's September, and the White Sox are, 5 games up in the division, 10 games up in the division by that point, which they should be in this division. Let's just face it. If they play to their abilities, they should be 5 to 10 games up in this division in September. If they play to that extent, and then they get this guy back, instantly, I would put all the money in my points bet account on the White Sox to win the World Series, because I would like that. To me, would be the biggest boost for this White Sox team, is to get this guy back pitching after what he's going through. That emotional boost, I think, is very underplayed in sports. What this means when you are on a team at any level, you become a family. Right. And that's the best part about
a lot
sports.
Of time with each other. Just a ridiculous, especially in baseball.
And that's the best part about sports, right? It brings you together. Even when it comes down to like local men's league softball, right? You drive past a field on a Tuesday night, and the guys are out on the field playing. The wives and the children are out there running around, having a good old time, talking, chatting it up, and it's a family atmosphere. That's exactly what it is in the clubhouse. And when you get a guy like that back, a brother of yours back after fighting that battle, that emotional boost to me would be enough to pick them to win a World Series.
Yeah, I mean, to win the World Series, that'd be tough. The main thing is, and I already mentioned it, is they stay healthy.
Yeah.
And I saw Jeremiah's.
Yeah, you bring it up. You guys saw Turner hit that grand slam on 1-2 count in the World Baseball Classic, right?
They should have walked him.
And that's exactly what Tony La Russa would have done.
Yes. Are you kidding me? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the health of this team that's really going to matter. I mean, it really is. I think another, concern, if we can stay on the White Sox for a little longer, because I see you chomping at the bit over
No.
But is Oscar Colas in right field, which we just got news today that he will make the opening day roster. Probably is your opening day right field starter. Had an okay to good spring training, had 3 bombs in 26 games, batted like 270, had a 444.
Are you happy with that? Are you happy with Oscar Colas in right field?
I think he has to come up at some point. He's 24. He's not a young rookie. I think they have to give him a shot at one point, and they do have a safety net in Gavin Sheets to possibly play there. Would I have liked somebody better that they picked up? Yeah. Payroll's around 220 million right now. So, I mean, I don't know if that was in the cards for them. Their payroll is up there to get a right fielder. And what are you going to do? Maybe rent a player, I guess they could have. But I think that's what they think Sheets is going to be. Is sort of
that's your the depth, right? Sheets is your depth.
Yeah.
Sheets is the guy, if you lose a guy in right field, you could still keep Eloy as your DH because you've got a guy like Gavin Sheets on your roster. And for me, that's the biggest thing, right? Because we've seen it before. I think to keep Eloy healthy for a full season, he can't touch his glove. Do not let him touch his glove. He does not play a position all year long for me. He is my DH. I've got Gavin Sheets out there. I've got Oscar Colas. I've got Luis Robert. Luis Robert, too, that's another key component for this White Sox team is the health of Luis Robert. Because if you stay healthy, this White Sox team is probably, to me, a top 3 team in the American League.
You would have to say yes to that. And they don't even have to say totally healthy. They just have to have average health. I mean, last year was the worst season I've ever seen. And I've been watching this team for over 30 years when it came to injuries, like the worst season that I've seen. And no guy really was out for the entire season, but when you lose a guy for 60, 70 games, it's not like football. It's not even like basketball or even hockey where a guy comes back, he gets his legs back, he's better. Sometimes in baseball, a guy is never better for the rest of the season. His timing is off. It's a totally different season for him now. Baseball is just a different animal than any other sport.
Yeah. No, it is. And this White Sox team, to me, again, and I'll keep posting about them. I don't even really care. Being a Cubs fan, I will keep posting about this White Sox team because they're going to be fun to watch. So when it comes to the pitching staff, though, the last question that we want to answer here is who's your unsung hero of this pitching staff heading into the 2023 season? Who is the sleeper that we might not see coming?
That's a good question. You know what? Jeremiah's going to get mad at me, maybe my sister, but I think it could be Aaron Bummer. I mean, not going into the starting.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with Clevenger. I was going to punch you in the throat.
No, Aaron Bummer was one of the best left-handed reliever 3 or 4 years ago, or
Yeah.
2019. He got a team friendly contract put in front of him, and he just hasn't delivered. He has had some unlucky. His sinker is so good. You get broken bat singles, that barely rolled to pass the mound on
Right.
him, or dying quails out into the outfield. But I think this could be the year, even though he's still a little bit banged up. He's coming back still after an injury. He's not going to play in the beginning of the year. Had a good session, though. Had a good game in spring training the other day. He's probably going to come in week 1 or week 2 of the new season. I think he has a bounce back year. I really do. I think luck has to come back to him a little bit. He's been injured and he's had a lot of unlucky hits. Has problems pitching in the zone, but he's getting older now. I really think he could be the unsung hero of this staff. He could even be a closer, by the way, and it's hard for me to put a lefty in the closer position, but he can. He pitches really well to right-handers.
Yeah, see, for me, I think that it has to be, and I'm not saying that it's going to be, but I think the unsung hero for this White Sox team has to be Kendall Graveman in that closer's role. Oof. I think that Kendall Graveman has to step up and has to be better closing out games. Like I've watched him pitch this spring. He's had a couple of really rough outings, and he needs to be better heading into the regular season for the White Sox to really be able to. They have to have success, because you don't want to go into a season knowing that you have to beat guys by 6 or 7 runs. Like you don't want to put that on this offense, and I know this offense is capable of doing so when they're right and when they're healthy. But Kendall Graveman, they have to know that they've got a guy coming out of the bullpen that is going to shut the door when they have a lead in the 9th inning.
He just can't fold like the Cubs circa 2003 post Bartman ball. I mean, he just can't fold. He's had problems. He had problems closing last year when Liam Hendricks, yes, another hurt Sox player last year, when Liam Hendricks went down for 3 weeks. He can't. Breaking news. This motherfucker. Eloy just slipped and fell in the shower. He's expected back by September. For a split second when I was reading that, I was like, okay, he's hurt again. But those big bodies, man, it's tough to keep them healthy. Ask Frank Thomas when he got into his 30s. But these guys are all in their 20s. That's the fucked up part.
Ask any giant athlete, though, too. Any of these big guys, even in the NBA, right? Like you get where, like Zion Williamson, right? A freak in college can't stay healthy in the NBA because you worry about the size of their bodies and the way that their, the bones are going to
Greg Oden
heal.
Never really played ever, and was a number 1 pick. Never really played, and also looked like he looked like Morgan Freeman when he was like 19 years old.
No, absolutely.
Like he was 80. But
so let's get into the Cubs pitching staff. All right, so we have the Cubs, who to me are in probably the weakest division in baseball, and to me, the Cubs are probably the second best team in this division right now, behind the St. Louis Cardinals. And Cubs fans, I just saw like 5 people freaking drop out of the viewers as I said that. Cubs fans, we have to realize, and we have to come to reality, right? Like this team is good. They're not great. This team has a lot of question marks. And to me, the pitching staff is the biggest question mark. I really feel like this pitching staff is made up of a bunch of guys who have potential, but we have to see it fully exerted, right? Like Marcus Stroman has to be the Marcus Stroman we saw in the World Baseball Classic back in 2017. Jamison Taillon has to be the guy that we saw out of the New York Yankees organization over the last 2 years, and not the guy that we saw out of the Pittsburgh Pirates organization his first 6 years of his career. Kyle Hendricks. We need to know.
Not to cut you off, but to cut you off. Alzolay. I mean, I know you're going to get into Hendricks again, and we're going to disagree for about 20 minutes, but What
Well,
about Alzolay? I mean, are you
he's going to
high
come
on
out of the
him? Or-
bullpen. He's going to
Okay.
come out of the bullpen. I'm not. I've watched his stuff. I don't think that he's got the stuff to be a frontline starter in the league.
Okay.
I think he's always going to be a back end of the rotation type of guy, or your long guy coming out of the bullpen. Adbert Alzolay is a guy who they had a ton of hope for, but he was another guy that they just missed on. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's just what it is.
Whew,
You
that's
know,
tough.
Justin Steele, I think, is a guy that they hit on. I really like Justin Steele. He's going to be your fourth starter behind Hendo, maybe in front of Hendo. Because, like I said, or I was getting about to say, is that with Kyle Hendricks, we need to know where he stands health wise. We need to know where he is coming out to be, because if we get Kyle Hendricks back to even 70% of his form, we've got a pretty damn good third starter. Because when he was 100%, he was a Cy Young candidate. He was a guy whose ERA was never going to sneak above 3. He was a guy who he's a Greg Maddux type pitcher. He was just going to outthink you and outsmart you. Okay. Justin Steele in the fourth role, Drew Smiley as the fifth starter. I like the rotation. I don't love it, but I like the rotation. And I think that this is a team that come the trade deadline is probably going to be looking for the best available starting pitcher if they are still within hunt of the division, which they should be. With this lineup, with this pitching staff, they should still be there. I love the addition of Michael Fulmer. I really do. I think that was huge.
Good pitcher.
I think it was huge. You put Rowan Wick back in the position to be the setup guy, and you've got Michael Fulmer as your closer.
And I know a lot about Fulmer
should
too. Being in the Central with against the Sox a lot. Always a good pitcher. Even had a chance to be a starter at one point. Injuries and inconsistent play didn't do it, but he was going to be a top line starter at one point. I mean, that's where they had him projected out, and I agreed with that. Maybe not an ace, but 2 or 3 for sure. And now that he's in the bullpen, he pitches really well, throws a lot of strikes. Okay, has some good stuff still in the tank. But let's get back to Hendricks for a second. What's your over under on innings for him? I'm at 100. I think that's pretty generous. And 2, does the DH in the National League hurt Kyle Hendricks? Because there was a time where pitchers could go hide in the National League and every third inning have the worst hitter on the team and the pitcher to face. He doesn't have that anymore. I mean, I think that's a big, people downplay how giant that is to have a professional hitter instead of a pitcher who has no time to really study the art of hitting. For lack of a better, you know what I mean?
And that's where with Kyle Hendricks, I need to know where he's at health wise, because if he's healthy, I need 130 to 150 innings out of you. That's where my magic number would be for Kyle Hendricks. If you're telling me he's pitching less than 100 innings this year, I might say keep him shelved until he's 100% healthy, because I don't want to put a guy out there taking a spot from a guy like Adbert Alzolay, like Adrian Sampson,
who could be learning.
Is somebody who could be learning, or somebody that could actually be of value to you in that position, right? Like somebody who you could get 5 to 6 innings out of in that position. And which is weird to say for a starter, 5 to 6 innings, but that's what the game is now, right?
What the game is, And he's not the kind of guy that could be like a Ronaldo Lopez over on the South Side, where Ronaldo Lopez can give you a spark start, and he's great out of the bullpen. You don't get that with Kyle Hendricks just because of the way he pitches. He's an innings eater at this point in his career. He's not a guy that's going to come out of the bullpen and strike out 3 guys in an inning for you.
No,
2 guys on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's not. And to me, for me, the biggest loss for this Cubs rotation is Kyle Hendricks. Like, he is a guy that I just don't know where he stands. I
I
don't
do
know where
love to
he's at
watch him
health
pitch,
wise.
man. I do love to watch him pitch. He's
And
fun to
if
watch.
he's there, he realistically is your number one. Like he is a guy that will outsmart you. Ivy League education, a guy that pitches just like Greg Maddux. He's not going to overpower you with speed. He's going to top out at 89 miles an hour, and he's going to outsmart you, and he's going to frustrate you. And that's his game. And that is the Kyle Hendricks that the Cubs need in order to make this season what Cubs fans really want it to be, which is a division championship, right? Like Cubs fans are realistically excited about the season. I'm excited about this season.
No, they'll be competitive. And look, like Milwaukee is from faltering from like multiple personality disorder. They have no idea what they are. They don't really have an identity. And look, if St. Louis has injuries like the Sox did last year, which could happens to 4 or 5 teams a year, basically don't make the playoffs, aren't good at all. I mean, it happened to the Yankees for a couple years in a row because of injuries. And if that happens, they could really give this division a run. I don't think that's going to happen, but because I just think there's a lot of blank spots on this team, right? Like who's playing third base for you?
Well, it's going to be interesting to see. Chris Morel's going to get some time there. We're going to have to battle through and see. God, you're going to make me say it. You're doing this on purpose at this point, is what I think.
He hit a home run yesterday.
He did hit a home run yesterday. He's a nice player. Like Patrick Wisdom is a nice player. I just, it's tough for me to see him.
His name.
As an everyday guy, right? But you're going to see Chris Morel out there. Edwin Rios is going to make this team. Edwin Rios is a guy that you're going to see a lot of time for him at third base, between third base and DH. He's had a quietly great spring. I've liked the at-bats that he's taken. I like the pop that we're seeing out of his bat. I like what I've seen from Edwin Rios, and I think he's going to be maybe one of the better pickups for us this offseason. We got to see what we get out of Dansby Swanson, who's striking out at an alarming rate in spring training. And Cody Bellinger. You got to see what you get out of those guys. But that's what we're going to get out of the third base spot. But
and Jeremiah did have a decent comment there. I never thought of Bellinger to the Sox. That might have been okay, but still, I mean,
aren't you happier with having Benintendi as your big outfield signing?
Left field. Yeah, I love that signing. I don't know how you could be mad about that signing at all.
Bellinger would have just been a depth piece that maybe gets a start every third or fourth day. Like it just I don't know how that fits. How that fits for Bellinger, how that fits for the White Sox.
He might not even have entertained that because he knows that there is going to be a hole there that we have to play this kid. Colas is going to get 50 to 100 at bats before they make a decision to whether to bring him down to the minors or not. And then you have halfway through the season, you have to trade deadline. Maybe you pick somebody up. Maybe that's what they're thinking. So, but we're still on the Cubs.
So we got into the pitching staffs of both teams. We really like the White Sox pitching staff. We're a little bit concerned about the Cubs pitching staff, but we'll see how they both shake out. But before we get into the lineups, man, you've promised.
Oh God,
you've promised that we are going to get one of the best Fizgibberishes of all time. So without further ado, let's get in to Fitchgibberish.
All right. It's another edition of Fitchgibberish, a diatribe, a conspiracy, and an island in the middle of unapologetic and sometimes inaccurate sports talks, like when we forget a name. Long before Shohei
That was a dig.
On both of us, really, not just on you. Long before Shohei Ohtani's slider slid and Mike Trout had 3 swinging strikes for only the 25th time in his career during an at-bat. Long before Trey Turner unloaded on a hanging slider for the go-ahead grand slam home run off of Venezuela, which Jeremiah said was a 1-2 count. Why not a slider on a 1-2 count? Long before half the sporting world wondered what an Ohtani Serena Williams love child would hit in the majors. The World Baseball Classic was just that, a classic. Nolan Arenado pointed out why the U.S. may have lost to Japan, throwing down a gauntlet to his fellow major leaguers, saying, "There is no reason the Stars should not be playing in this." White Sox Joe Kelly, now the Trevor Bauer of baseball until they find a dead hooker in his closet, had something for the fans about for the fans who are ripping the WBC because of injuries.
Everyone's always going to blame a type of injury, but every spring training, there's stupid injuries, either PFPs or me. That one year, bro, I fucking broke my back pretty much holding 80-pound crawfish boil at my house, and I was picking up the pot, and I almost herniated one of my discs. So there's always going to be something stupid that happens. You know what I mean? Someone cuts their hand making dinner. The guy got hurt having fun celebrating his teammates. Who gives a shit? It was very unfortunate. But hey, it is what it is. You could get hurt. I could get hurt right now driving home and get paralyzed and break my neck in a car accident. It doesn't matter. People are always going to give an excuse. If you have an excuse and saying oh, you shouldn't play, shut up, dude. Just shut your mouth. It doesn't matter. That's not why he got hurt. If it would have happened then, it could have happened, game one of the playoffs, or it could have been game one of opening day of him jumping, and if his cartilage is already weak, it could have ripped. But I think World Baseball Classic is great for baseball, and you want every superstar playing in it as much as you can.
That was on the Baseball Isn't Boring podcast, which is pretty damn good if you want to check it out. Joe Kelly's on it a lot. He was talking from spring training there, but I have a sidebar.
That one year, bro, I fucking broke my back pretty much.
How do you pretty much break your back? Don't you either break your back or not break your back? It's not an in-between thing, but I digress. No one thought the Baseball Classic would upstage the NCAA basketball tournament, but that's exactly what it did. Everyone thought baseball was boring, but it isn't, and the players, announcers, and coaches are fighting for it, including Joe Kelly. I went into a sports bar early in the WBC tournament, and they didn't even have the game on. I had to ask the bartender to put it on, and she didn't even know what it was, although she was 25 and a millennial, so I can't really, get mad at her for it. Rob Bradford called the Japan versus USA WBC final one of the most important games ever played in baseball. That's the same Rob Bradford who co-wrote Joe Kelly's book, A Damn Near Perfect Game, which is a pretty good book. I'm reading it right now. He's also wrote a lot of books on baseball. Even on this show, we asked ourselves, how much would we watch it? If you remember this, Combs, we said, how much are we going to watch this? How are we going to watch this? What are we going to watch? All this reminded me of something, a now very old movie turn. The WBC could now be called a cult classic in every way that term could be used. A cult classic is typically a movie or book that is popular and fashionable among a particular group of people, or it gets popular later on. The Rocky Picture Horror Show is a cult classic. Repo Man with Emilio Estevez is a cult classic. Clerk is a cult classic. And a lot of indie movies from the 90s I would call a cult classic. Cult classics are classics because they buck the popular trends of the day and become popular when people realize how truly groundbreaking they were. Cult classics don't eliminate the shift. Cult classics flip bats. And yes, cult classics celebrate. How many times does an entire bench jump out of a dugout in the middle of a baseball game for an RBI in the first fucking inning? It happened all the time in the WBC, and it was damn fucking entertaining. The advice I give for Joe Kelly, Arenado, Trout, and others who have come late to celebrate the WBC is buried in Joe Kelly's diatribe. If I can play the audio.
Oh, you shouldn't play. Shut up, dude. Just shut your mouth.
My advice to them is shh. Be quiet. if you listen closely, you can already hear the lawyers, agents, and yes, ex-GMs like Theo Epstein.
Action overall.
If you
And their
remember
desire
that
for
from
faster
weeks
pace of
ago.
play, for more athleticism on display in the field and on the bases, for more balls in play.
They are amassing their barrels of ink to change this classic and make it better. Maybe pinch runners next time for the WBC when the WBC rolls around, or plastic gloves while you bat so you don't break your hand, Altuve. Or even, they love this. No celebrating. Maybe they get rid of celebrating because Edwin Diaz is out for the season pretty much. In the end, the suits might just try to do the worst thing you can to a cult classic. Make a terrible sequel. And that is Fizgibberish. I pass it over to you, Combs. What do you think? Do you think they're going to change up the WBC because of all these injuries? Do you think the suits are going to take over because of the popularity and fuck everything up like most American sports?
Yeah, no, you know what's funny is that right after the WBC came in, and the one thing that I thought of was actually yesterday, when the news came out that Rhys Hoskins tore his ACL in a spring training game, and he was done for the season.
Yep.
It was a spring training game. So are we going to stop letting players play in spring training because they got hurt? No, we're going to get over it because it was spring training. These games in the WBC, like you said, in Fitz-Gibberish, so eloquently, might I add, and it really was the greatest Fitz-Gibberish of all time because of the World Baseball Classic.
It was that good.
I don't understand how anybody in this world, that idiot Keith Olbermann, can sit there and watch these games and say, wow, this should never be played again, or they need to do away with this, or this isn't what I signed on for. This isn't what I want to see. These games are so meaningful to so many of these guys. In the quarterfinals, that grand slam by Trey Turner was insane. The crowd went nuts. Trey Turner said it was the loudest game he's ever played in, including the World Series. These games mean something to these guys. So I don't understand how anybody has that take of, hey, we shouldn't be doing this, or hey, these guys got hurt and they shouldn't play. I don't think that the players are going to allow the suits to change the fact of whether or not they can play in these games. Now, are they going to be stupid and change some stuff like rules wise? Possibly.
I think that would be too bad. I think that would just be too bad.
I agree.
Like you could add in like maybe, like I said, pinch runners, all that. Maybe only bringing in the stars in the 7th or 8th inning. I was thinking about that too. Like, what are they going to do to mess this up now that it's popular? Because in 2017 it was popular, but it was and people were bitching because of all the celebrating they were doing back then. And but it was just semi-popular. Like this was and I'm sorry if some people listening didn't notice. This was a cultural phenomenon. Like this was amazing. This is the best baseball. I've been watching baseball for years. It's one of the best baseballs you watch. The only thing that kind of sucked is the American team called the Dream Team for whatever reason. I don't know, a nightmare. But this team doesn't get out of the AL Central. I mean, they didn't have the pitching. Japan has their best pitchers pitching. They got that Sasaki who's throwing like 110 miles an hour. They got Ohtani. Like they have all their best players on there. The American team just did. They had a good batting lineup. They did, and they showed that. But when you get into these games that are 3-2, you're probably going to lose that game against a better pitching staff. But I almost don't want it. I almost don't want it to get too popular because then they do mess with it. You watch. I mean, they'll mess with the next one, I feel like. But
it was funny that you said about the Japanese pitcher and how hard he was thrown. Did you see, by any chance, Jordan Hicks of the St. Louis Cardinals last night threw a pitch that was 104.6 miles per hour? Dude, I would have thrown my bat at it and ran away screaming like a schoolgirl. Like I would have just that ball would have come in at 104 miles an hour. You would have heard a and I would have thrown the bat at it and ran.
Having to catch that shit.
Dude.
Imagine being
No.
I wouldn't even be the catcher with full pads on.
No.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched the Nolan Ryan documentary, which is pretty good if you check it out. It's pretty good. And they said that the radar guns back then weren't calibrated correctly, and they were actually slow. Yeah. That when he was throwing 102, 103, he was actually throwing 108, 109 miles an hour.
Jesus Christ. It's so...
That guy was insane.
It's insane. And the World Baseball Classic, like, and I told you this before the show, like, it's taken such a hold of people who watched it. Like I have a buddy of mine who up in New Hampshire started the World Softball Classic this year, playing in July, where, you know, guys who are from Canada are putting together a Canadian team, guys who, you know, have, you know, Italian blood in there, whatever the case is, they might not have ever lived in that country, but that's where their bloodline is from. And they're starting to create teams for all of the, that would be so much fun to play. And how could you ever take that away from somebody? Like the pride that somebody has in their country. Like, look, being a Marine, like I have a ton of pride for the flag and for Team USA and for America. To be able to say, hey, I represented my country in an event like this, like the World Baseball Classic, like that's got to mean the world to these guys. So I don't think there's a way they could ever take that away from them.
No, I mean, it's tough. I mean, even, I believe it was Rod Darling said, you know, you can like the World Baseball Classic, but you cannot like the time of the year that it's at.
Right.
Because there's no way I could be ready to pitch in that. Well, I mean, Lance Lynn was kind of ready to pitch. Some of those guys were ready to pitch. Ohtani was ready to fucking pitch.
Dude, Ohtani's ridiculous.
That was a pretty good slider. It was.
He's going to look so good in a Cubs uniform next year.
They had they had like his projected, like what he's going to get paid, that he would get paid $300 million for his hitting and $230 million for his pitching. If he was a pitcher and a hitter, like if he was taken, like if he was two separate people.
Did you see at the end when Japan won, they held up that Suzuki jersey? I thought it was for Ichiro. That wasn't for Ichiro. That was for Seiya Suzuki, the Cubs right fielder who couldn't play in the World Baseball Classic because of injury.
Oh, okay.
Like, and so I thought the whole time I thought it was for Ichiro. When I found out it was for Seiya Suzuki, I was like, in that it was Ohtani's call to do that. I'm like, Ohtani's going to be playing for the Cubs next year. There's a connection there.
There's your dream team.
There's a connection there.
Oh my God. Doubting Thomas Bonsai. And he changed his avatar.
Team Japan.
Japanese. I was drinking Japanese. If I'm allowed this, and you're not going to shoot me. But I was drinking Japanese whiskey the other day. It was pretty good, man.
Japanese whiskey.
Japanese people became obsessed with Scotch. Really, Scotch whiskey. And
I did not know Japanese whiskey was a thing.
Yeah, it is. It's delicious. And Chivas Regal, which is one of my favorite whiskeys, it's a blend. It's not a single malt. I'm not some prude, but it's a great mix, actually. And whiskey. And they made a Japanese whiskey. I drank it on my birthday. It was delicious. But the weird thing about that Japanese team, I don't know if you got this or I'm insane. It's probably a little bit of both.
I was going to say, you're probably insane.
They play like an early 90s, 80s, maybe even 70s baseball team. They have pop. They do. I'm not going to say they don't. They have fucking Ohtani on the team. But they all don't.
Right.
They don't make a lot of errors. They don't hurt themselves. They play really well. All of them can basically run. Like none of them are giant, none of them are Eloy Jimenez or Frank Thomas or anything like that, really. They play kind of like an 80s, early 90s team, and it's kind of refreshing to watch them play because, like I said, there isn't a lot of errors. There's a lot of errors in today's game. There wasn't when I was watching when I was a kid. I mean, it could be, confirmation bias, but I don't think so. I don't know if you saw the same thing.
Yeah, the way that they play the game is, I mean, it really is. It's refreshing to watch. It's like watching baseball that I grew up watching. You know what I mean?
Pretty much. It is. And like the way that they've taken to the game and love the game. I mean, it is pretty cool to watch, even though I don't know if it'd have to be maybe when the Sox lost that 08 playoff game against the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, but probably not then. I was pretty hurt when the U.S. team lost, man. And that Japanese team, like, it's inspiring what they did. That Venezuela team, that Mexico team.
Yeah.
I mean, that Mexico team is a pretty tight third place for the top teams in this playoffs. I mean, that Mexico team is pretty damn good, man.
That Mexico team was, but they also had guys from Cuba playing for them, and wasn't exactly, oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
Mexico adjacent.
It's right there. I mean, right. I saw somebody who was complaining about guys playing for Puerto Rico who were from the United States, and I said, you do realize Puerto Rico's a part of the United States, right? Like, it's not like, he was playing for some crazy team that you've never heard of. It's not like he was playing for Japan or fucking Chinese Taipei. He was playing for Puerto Rico. Like, I don't know. I didn't have a problem with it.
We talked about this before. A-Rod, I forgot who he played for.
He played for Dominican Republic.
Yeah. A-Rod, he's nerdier than fucking me. Like, the guy.
He's such a tool.
I mean, the guy gets manis and petties, for Christ's sake. How are you playing for the Dominican Republic, dude?
No, I agree.
He wears shoes with no socks.
All right, you ready to get into the Cubs and Sox lineups?
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's do it. We're going to finish our deep dive here on Major League Baseball here in Chicago anyway. Not all of Major League Baseball, but just, our teams, the Cubs and the White Sox. So this offseason, not very many additions to the White Sox lineup, right? So for you, your best addition has to be Andrew Benintendi, right?
Yeah. Yep. He'll probably slot in at the number 2 spot, I would think.
And I think for me, for the Cubs, I think the best addition to the Cubs lineup, I feel like it's going to be Cody Bellinger. I know people are expecting me to say Dansby Swanson, but I think Cody Bellinger is going to have the biggest impact of the new bats for this Cubs team.
Talk about
gibberish. That surprises you a little bit, huh?
It does surprise me a little bit, but he's in a year.
Well, he hasn't struck out 23 times and 39 at bats like Dansby Swanson has this spring. So I might have a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth right now.
You give this guy $180 million and you're not going to pick him. But yeah, I mean, Bellinger, he's under in a contract 1 year where it's a prove-it contract. I mean, you put a guy in a position like that obviously has the talent. I mean, no one's going to say he doesn't. I mean, I think his problems might be in between the ears. Maybe baseball isn't his favorite thing to do because, believe it or not, some of these athletes, that's how it is. But he's under a prove-it contract. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility, but I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I just don't see it. But
I think that Cody Bellinger can kind of return to form in Chicago. He has a swing that will play in Wrigley Field. He has a lot of opposite field power. The wind tends to blow from right to left in Wrigley Field. I really think that he has a swing that will play the same way that I feel like Andrew Benintendi is going to really eat up whatever we're calling it now. I call it Comiskey, but whatever field we're calling it now, Sox Park, whatever you want to call it. I feel like that swing plays for Andrew Benintendi the same way I feel like Cody Bellinger is going to benefit from being a Chicago Cub.
It sounds good, but the guy really hasn't
sounds
played
good
well in a while now. I mean, it's been a little bit since he hit those 40 home runs.
It has 2 years,
and
3 years.
And I trust in some teams. I do. And their analytics and the way that they look at players, and there is no scouting department. And I even put them above the Houston Astros. That's better than the Dodgers at not just scouting, because you don't just have to scout minor leaguers, scouting their own players. And they said,
right,
to Cody Bellinger, that's the only reason why. That's why I'd be a little bit down on that, but like I said, he's on a proven contract.
Who's your White Sox offensive MVP this year?
I'm going to go against Doubting Thomas and say it's Eloy Jimenez. I think he's the best hitter on the team. I think he was even the best hitter on the team when Jose Abreu was on this team. The guy hits good pitching. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys don't do that. And he hits good pitching hard. I mean, really good pitching too. I put him in there against any pitcher, including Ohtani. He just can absolutely rake. He plays 140 games this year. He's going to hit 40 home runs. He is.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going with Tim Anderson for the White Sox. I'm going with Tim Anderson. I think
he's the best hitter the last 4 years in the league.
Yeah, and that's why I'm going with him. I mean, I'm not going out on a limb. I'm not going with a crazy pick, but I think that Tim Anderson is going to be a tone setter. I think he's going to have a healthy year. I think he's happy that Tony La Russa is not in the clubhouse anymore, and I think it's a breath of fresh air, if I can say that 5 times fast. May have something to do with what's in my cup, but
yes, 32 ounces.
I think it's a breath of fresh air for the White Sox and not have Tony La Russa there, and for this offense to flourish. I think that the new rules going into effect are really going to help a lot of these guys, and to me, Tim Anderson is going to be the tone setter all year round for this White Sox team.
Yeah, talk about another guy. He plays 140, 150 games.
Yeah.
Maybe just has a short DL stint. Like that, this guy makes that team run. I mean, they really go downhill when their record without him is dismal.
Yeah.
He's more than just what he's on the field. I think his attitude that's the attitude of the team.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a great hitter. On the north side, I'm going to take Swanson. I really am. I don't think any of this spring training thing doesn't mean shit. I heard he's working on a timing mechanism, so it could just be that. Guys are trying. He's a veteran now. He doesn't have to do good in spring training to prove anything to anybody. That's another thing of it. And Jose Abreu was abysmal in spring training. He had a good spring training for Houston, motherfucker. But he's been bad almost every year until mid-May, and after a while you stopped worrying about it. I think Swanson's going to be fine. I think he's going to be your big hitter. I think he's going to be the MVP of your team. Really, he plays a great shortstop too. I mean, don't sleep on his defense.
Well, with the Cubs, I am not going Dansby Swanson as the offensive MVP. I'm actually going to go with the guy that he pushed over to second base, and I'm going with Nico Horner. This guy can flat out rake. He is the Cubs version of Tim Anderson. This guy can
pop. Does he have the pop that Tim Anderson has? I know
he doesn't have the pop. He doesn't have the pop. He's probably going to be a 12 to 15 type home run hitter, but he is that guy that he is the only guy in the Cubs lineup that with runners in scoring position, I am 110% confident in his ability to put the ball in play. And I really like what Nico Horner brings to the table. And I know people keep going on and on and on about Dansby Swanson, but we got to remember Dansby Swanson had a career year in his in his contract season, right? Which really helped the fact that he got to where he's got. This guy is a 255 career hitter. This is not a guy who sets the world on fire year in and year out. I mean, prior to last year where he hit 277, he had the 25 home runs and the 96 RBIs, right? This is a guy who's hitting 251, 238, 232. He's got, 35 RBIs, 65 RBIs, 59 RBIs. And I know a lot of those stats get lost in today's world with the stats and the stupid stuff that we like to look at now.
Don't you add 20 or 30 points to a batter now from when we were kids? I mean, don't you add that to them? Like the All-Star game is littered with guys who are 255 career hitters.
I don't add it to them because I don't give guys a break because they can't make contact with the baseball. Like I'm just not. I'm an old school type guy, if you will, when it comes to players being able to actually hit the fucking ball. Like, be able to make contact with the ball. Don't be a home run or nothing type player. Don't be that guy who is only going to hit 240 or 250 and strike out 185 times. Like, I was watching the Cubs 360 the other day, right? And you had a Floyd out there, Cliff Floyd, talking about how when he played, he would be embarrassed to strike out. And that was the tone all throughout Major League Baseball, was that it was embarrassing for you to strike out, 80 to 90 or even 100 times in a season. And now it's a part of the culture. Now it's a part of your everyday acceptance to be able to strike out 180 times in a season, as long as you can hit 35 to 40 home runs.
Yeah, that's a problem. I mean, and even probably one of my favorite Cubs last, 10, 15 years, Rizzo, he cuts down his swing, his last at bat. Yeah. Actually, Ricky Renteria taught him to do that, and it works really well for him, and he takes it for the team. I mean, how many more home runs would he have if he didn't? Who knows if he didn't cut down his swing, but he does, and it's very successful for him. I don't know why other players don't do that. One of my favorite players of all time, Tony Gwynn, barely ever struck out like 20 times a season. I think he struck out maybe 200 times his entire career, or it's around there.
Yeah,
I'd have to look it up again, but yeah, I mean that's how different baseball is. I mean, and your boy, well, maybe not your boy. I don't think you like him. Theo Epstein said that uppercut swing, that launch angle, it ain't going away, and I think he's right. I don't think it is going away because it does tend to favor the analytic side, where if a guy has a home run every 10, 20, 30 at bats, maybe it's better if he strikes out, 7, 8 times those 20, 30 at bats. It's hard to swallow because I'm with you. I like contact hitters, but there's not a lot of them anymore.
There's not, and it's been tough to kind of absorb that, right? Like, as a baseball guy, it's been tough to sit there and be like, God, I gotta be okay with my guy striking out 150 times a year, and that's not what I like to see. It's not a big thing. So, what's your biggest hole in the White Sox lineup?
It's a good question.
I think it's an easy answer. I really do. I do. I think it's an easy answer, but let's see if we have the same answer.
I'm gonna have to. Just because he's new, and I'm a back of the card type guy. I'm not going to go with Grandal. He was hurt for half.
See, that's where I'm going. It's Grandal.
I'm not going there. He was one of the best catchers in the league in 21. I don't believe a guy, he's not that old yet, can be just all of a sudden bad. But maybe. Maybe. I think it's got to be Colas. He's new. You don't know where the holes in the swing is, and quite frankly, the Sox might not know, or Oscar Colas might not know, just because wait till the scouts get to him because they probably haven't gotten to him yet.
Yeah.
Once they get to him, if he can adjust, we'll see. I mean, with that's what baseball is. It's a game of adjustments, and I have to go with Oscar Colas. I mean, I think Elvis Andrews is going to have a decent year. Looks like he found something too, but
yeah. See, for me, it's Grandal. It's Grandal. What I watched from him last year, and I know he was hurt, right? But what I watched from him was a guy who just couldn't figure it out. There was a lot of decline that I saw last year from Yasmani Grandal, and I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like, the strikeouts. I didn't like the fact that he couldn't come through in the clutch like we had seen Yasmani Grandal do so many times
920
before.
OPS in 21.
Yeah,
920 OPS. Best OPS among catchers.
Yeah,
in 21. But
in 22, the decline was so bad. I don't know he returns to that form. I don't know that he is more of that guy than he is the guy that we saw last year. Now, he could prove us wrong, right? Like he could prove me wrong. He could return to form, and if that happens, this White Sox lineup does not have a hole in it. I don't believe. Because I believe in Oscar Colas. I think Oscar Colas is the real deal. I think White Sox fans are going to love watching him play every day. If he does that, this White Sox team is going to be a monster. And I know you don't want to say it out loud because you don't want to jinx anything.
I know.
But I'm excited for this White Sox season. I really am.
It's going to be a great season for both teams, I think. I mean, the Cubs are never going to really be out of this division. Do you think the St. Louis Cardinals are that good? I mean, if the Cubs are hovering around 500 all season, they're going to be 4 or 5 games out. I mean, or maybe even they might spend a couple weeks in first place. I mean,
there's a lot of question marks with the Cubs, though.
Yes, there's too many.
The thing is that
you have a couple of main injuries, you're fucked.
Yeah, everything for the Cubs has to go right. You know what I mean? We don't know where Seiya Suzuki stands right now. He woke up this morning and farted and tore his asshole, and so now he's going to be out for another 7 weeks. Like
he slipped and fell in the shower.
And that's exactly that's the frustration, right? You see a guy like that who has so much potential, but he just can't stay on the field. I mean, he was hurt for half of last year too in his first season with the Cubs.
You're telling me that.
I don't.
You're telling me that. I got Luis Robert in center field who can't play more than 80 or 90 fucking games.
Right, but I mean that's a question mark. Cody Bellinger is a question mark. Dansby Swanson right now is a question mark. Eric Hosmer is a question mark. Yan Gomes is a question mark. Trey Mancini. There's a lot of question marks, and that's what. There's not a whole lot of question marks when it comes to the Cardinals. And to be honest with you, I'll take it one step further. There's not a whole lot of question marks when it comes to the Milwaukee Brewers. I like what the Milwaukee Brewers did with their team this year. I really like their starting rotation. I like the Cubs.
I do like some of their pieces, but they
the
don't
third
know
best team in this
They're
division.
trading good players and bringing in young players, and isn't their window open? Like, what the hell's happening over there? I don't know.
Their window is open, but
you have the Cubs as the second team in this division, so you must.
I might have them. I have them. I have them second, but I wouldn't be surprised if they came in third. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if the Brewers won this division. To be honest with you, I really wouldn't. I like their pitching staff more than I like the Cardinals' pitching staff.
I can't go against the Cardinals, though.
I will. That's what I'm saying, and that's why we're Cubs fans. They get mad when you start talking good about the Cardinals. But this Cardinals organization has been the model of success in baseball for years and years and years. When was the last time? And please tell me if you can remember it, because I sure as hell don't. When was the last time the Cardinals went through a rebuild?
That's hard to say. I mean, they draft so well. They'll just bring in guys.
I know.
All of a sudden, good.
And every time you're like, all right, the Cardinals lost this guy, they lost this guy, they lost that guy. This guy's not good. They're in spring training. Wait, they lost their number 1 and their number 2 starters to injuries. They're both done for the year. They're not going to be good. All of a sudden, the Cardinals bring up 2 guys from the minor leagues who are ridiculously good, and they're winning game after game after game, and then the Cy Young conversation.
Players. They're like an old bad Sega Genesis game where you just can like make a player up and they just throw them in there and they're like, that's not a real guy.
You know how you go into a video game. Yeah. You go into a video game and you go into the settings and you're like, all right, let me adjust this guy to a 99. Let me adjust this guy to a 99. That's what the Cardinals do. Like, I don't understand how they do it year in and year out, but they do.
That they brought up, they bring up Tommy Pham. He's like a fucking 10th rounder. The guy's fucking still playing.
Colton Wong,
as good as they thought. Yeah, Colton Wong, great player.
Yes, great player. Like I mean, these guys, the Cardinals, and it pisses me off because I hate them so much. But when you look at them organizationally speaking,
it's hard not to.
You want to be them. You want the Cubs to be that. You want the White Sox to be that. Yeah. Like that's
I just feel like positional player wise, the Cubs kind of are that. I mean, they do find a lot of good position players, and they have under the Jed Hoyer.
And then they let them go to the Cardinals.
Monsters, yeah. But they have found those players, and the Sox are on the other side of the field. That's what we've talked about before. The Cubs and Sox should be good on both sides of the fucking field, man. They're pitching and hitting, but they're just not. They're just specifically Cubs that find good position players, Sox find good pitching. I always trust the Sox in the pitching department, but they can't put it all together. It's disconcerting, and you keep harping on it, and unfortunately, I have to say you're right. Chicago teams shouldn't be going through a rebuild every 3 or 4 years. People were saying that maybe the Sox should go through a rebuild. They just fucking went through a goddamn rebuild in 2017.
And the average age of their lineup is like 27. Like, like they're so young. I mean, anybody who thinks that the White Sox should go through a rebuild should not talk baseball anymore.
No.
So
still, it was at least being said, and it's like, come on.
All right. So what is your prediction? What is your record for the White Sox?
I'm 93 wins. I'm 93 wins or more. I think they come back to the mean on the injuries.
Yep.
I know I sound like a broken record, but that's it. I think you have to eventually come back to that mean. I think at the 21 season, they had a lot of injuries. Like they were above average on injuries, and they were like, oh, maybe that's just an anomaly. And then you have another season where it's that bad.
Yeah.
Then you try to identify the problem and fix it. Eloy Menez lost 20 pounds. Roberts, like, no, baseball. I've learned baseball is a 365-day-a-year sport, which is true, especially for that size of body. I think they come back to the mean. I think they win it. I think they win around 93 games. I'm way over on some of these predictions for them.
You're going to kill me for saying this out loud. You're like in September, you're going to break this out and you're going to try to choke me out while we're live on a show.
We are.
I'm at 97. I'm at 97 to 101.
I can't really disagree with you. I just know a lot about this team, so I see the warts probably a little bit more than you. But it is funny that last week after the show, my wife said, has he choked you out during a show? Yes.
Yeah. It's going to happen at some point.
It's probably going to happen.
Yeah, it's probably going to happen. Yeah, to me, the White Sox, I think they're really going to pick on this division. I'm really excited to see what they can do outside of the division. I'm really excited to see what they can do in the American League East. That's going to be a tough division. The American League West, that's going to be a tough division. I'm really excited to see what they can be outside of the American League Central, which let's just face it, it's not the best division in the world.
No, it might be worse. It might be worse this year than the NL Central.
Yeah. For the Cubs, on the other hand, I'm going 87 to 89 wins. I think that's where they're at. I do. I think
they're in the playoffs with that. They're probably in the playoffs with that.
I think if they're between 87 to 89 wins, they are fighting for a wild card spot. Yeah, I do. I think either the Cardinals or the Brewers are going to be about a 90 to 92 win team. The Cubs are going to be just outside of the division. They're going to be competing for a wild card. I don't think that they are
them that high.
Yeah, no, I do. I really like
What's
this
all this
team. This
1 or
team
2
excites me.
years away bullshit you've been feeding me. For
They're not a, they're
they're
not even a top 5 team in the National League.
You don't have to be.
They can't compete. They can't compete when it comes to October. They probably get swept out of whatever playoff series they end up in because they just don't have the top line pitching that you need to play in October.
And I don't think it's smart to trade at the deadline with this team yet.
No, I mean,
think that's 24, 25 type shit. I don't think you trade at the deadline. At this point, I think you just let it ride, right?
Yeah.
Or do you want them trading at the deadline?
I
want the Sox trading at the deadline.
I want the Cubs trading at the deadline too, but I want them trading for, something that's going to put them into the future, right? Like I don't want them trading for a 1-year rental.
No.
I want them trading for, let's go out and get this guy who is available and you're going to have 2 or 3 years of control on him. You might have to give up a guy.
Do that, yeah.
You might have to give up a guy or two in the trade. You might have to give up Cody Bellinger, who might be having a good year at that point, right? Like you're giving up something who, it might still help you this year, but you want to build for the future. You want to build for what's going to happen after Shohei Ohtani is in the Cubs uniform.
Unbelievable.
Like
he's staying in Anaheim.
No, he's not
over there. Yeah, he is.
No, he's not. They're not going to give him. They're not going to give him the same contract that they gave Mike Trout.
How about the memes? And I wish I had it because I would present it right now. But how about the memes with, oh man, if Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout were on the same team, they'd be unbeatable. Too bad baseball's not that sport. I mean, it just isn't. You can't have a quarterback who's really good in baseball that hides all your.
What was the other one? Didn't you send it? It was like the three-headed monster.
Three-headed monster.
Yeah, yeah, that one was great.
And it's the Japanese team, the U.S. team, and then Anaheim. The third three-headed monster has his eyes crossed.
Yeah,
I mean, how that Anaheim team. And that's right there. That's bad scouting.
People forget that they have Rendon as well. Like they've got some really good players on this team.
Basically won a World Series.
Yeah,
for Washington a few years ago.
Yeah,
Rendon, he's ridiculously good. Yeah, it's insane. That's where you're in game scouting. It's not about especially in baseball. As you know, it's not about the star players. It isn't. It's about these little players at the edges. And maybe that's what the Cubs do at the trade deadline. They find like maybe a decent closer or a guy who's going to back up a closer, or maybe somebody in the pitching staff, or a guy who's a utility player, maybe an outfielder.
Maybe they trade for Shohei Ohtani.
Unbelievable.
Just kidding.
Oh, by the way, we glazed past this, but Shohei Ohtani, Serena Williams get together. They have a baby. What does that baby bat? 20 years from now, 22 years from now. I'm saying 400 at that time, like 380. Well, maybe he's a power.
Shohei Ohtani and Serena Williams had a baby.
Yes.
God.
He's not playing tennis. And who wants to play football if he's that rich? He ain't got to play football. Who wants to get their brains beat up?
I would play whatever Serena Williams wanted me to play. Like,
he probably could be
smoking.
What?
Smoking hot. Dude, I love Serena Williams.
You like that stuff?
Dude, Serena Williams? Yes.
I like her 10 years ago. She's kind of going into that, like...
I think you'd have a different opinion of her if you saw her naked.
Probably. Why? Have you seen her naked? Anyway.
Oh boy, that got off track real quick. All right, let's get back to the Cubs and White Sox. Yeah, 420, 430 is probably where that
Well,
kid
maybe
hits.
not batting average. Maybe he hits like 75 home runs a year
Yeah.
without steroids.
Yeah, without steroids. Yeah. Yeah.
Or she.
It's
We have to say she now too.
yeah, it's possible. It's 2023. We do have to say she. She might have been a he before she became a she.
Or
Yeah.
now there's a gender that's like it can be astral, so you can be like a star, like not a star like an acting star, but you can be an actual gaseous.
I saw a meme the other day on Facebook that said, "I hate that people that that blame their shitty behavior on their astrological sign. Like, sorry, I couldn't help it. I'm a Scorpio. No, Karen, you're just a bitch."
Do you know how names like rotate out? I was telling my wife this. There's names that rotate out of the rotation. Like, is anybody naming their girl Karen now? Like, in 20 years, is
when was the last time you met a girl named Margot?
Those are the names. Margot's one of those names too. Margot. Like, I hope one of your kids are not named Tyler. Tyler?
My nephew. His name's
Tyler. We're going to play cricket in the afternoon. Get mommy her galoshes. It's rainy outside.
All right. Before we get out of here, I want to know, and this was my favorite question of the whole thing when I put it all together today. In like the 30 seconds it took me to put it together and type it out to you. What is because I think I already know your answer for this.
I'm not ready to end the show yet.
What is your I have to eat dinner. What is your
at night?
Yeah, it's been a long day. I lost track of time. What is the team? What is your matchup? Are you on your period? All right, the tampon is really dry right now.
We just lost all credibility.
What is your one matchup that you're really looking forward to seeing with the White Sox this year? Like, who are you looking forward to see them play? Who are you looking forward to see come into town? If there's a team coming into town, you're buying that ticket. Who is it?
Astros.
I knew that was going to be your answer.
Yeah,
I knew it
without hesitation. I hate that team with like a hot, fiery flame. I guess since Verlander.
Now they got Jose.
Since Verlander left, like I guess it's a little bit different. Yeah, but with Abreu and all that, now he like took that spot. Verlander, by the way, the Aaron Rodgers of Major League Baseball. But moving on.
Are you cheering on Abreu if you're at the first game that they come into town? Are you cheering for Abreu when he gets to the dish? Yeah, okay.
I love the guy. I absolutely I love the guy. Like he's it's almost unbelievable what he did to get here. And he had to leave his family for 2 or 3 years. Even had a bad season. His only down season was because he couldn't take not being with his family. I mean, just imagine that, man.
Yeah, I picked him up on my fantasy team in my draft last night.
Oh yeah, I think he's gonna be talk about a prove it year. Even though you could give the guy hundreds of millions, he doesn't. Not to say that everybody cares about money at least a little bit, but that's not what drives this guy. He's going to be motivated, like if it's the last year of his career or whatever.
Right.
I think he's going to play really well this season. I think he has over 30 home runs, over 100 RBIs. And I'm going to fucking each and every RBI is going to hurt me. Like I said before, I think Wilson Contreras going to St. Louis, must hurt you, but man, Jose Abreu was so much more to this team than I think Wilson Contreras was to the Cubs. Not to be a topper, but he was.
Yeah.
I mean, that Houston team, I want them to sweep Houston. Like Thursday's game, if they lose when we're at Bourbon Street, you're going to be like, you're insane, because I'm going to be insane. That's going to be like Game 7 of the World Series for me.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's March fucking 30th.
The for me the one that I'm most looking forward to with the White Sox is the Indians. watching that battle all year long in that
Yeah.
division is going to be fun. They're a really good team. I watched them play the Cubs the other night in Arizona in spring training. These guys, man, were just freaking. It cost Adrian Sampson a spot on the major league roster. That game did, because they were hitting the ball out of the ballpark left and right.
I don't know if they're going to be a power hitting team. Talk about an 80s, 90s team. That's going to be the closest you'll see to that. Or we did talk about St. Louis.
Yep.
Indians are kind of like a St. Louis. They do rebuild.
Yeah.
And they have, but they don't rebuild a lot. They're always in contention. So, yeah, that's interesting. But my hatred for the Houston Astros is white hot. What about you? Let's turn the question back on you. I know you're going to say the fucking Cardinals, but can you have a dark horse maybe?
Well, for me, it is the Cardinals. And I will be at the first game when the Cardinals come to Wrigley. I will be there, and when Wilson Contreras comes up to the dish, I will be one of those fans standing up and cheering him and making him tip his cap and all that, and then I will boom for the next fucking 5 years. But for me, other than the Cardinals, I'm really interested more in like seeing if I had to pick a dark horse, and I don't want to stay in the division with the Brewers because I hate them just as much as I hate the Cardinals.
You don't have to a lot now. I mean, that's how the game has changed a little bit too. Like you can hate teams out of the division. Like I hate Houston.
Yeah, I'm really like I want to see them play the teams on the West Coast and how they fare against teams like the Padres and the Dodgers. I want to see how they stack up against teams that are of that caliber, of that ilk, because those are, to me, those teams are the teams that are the cream of the crop in the National League. We could talk about the NL East too. When you start talking about the Phillies, that their lineup is going to be stupid. Especially once Bryce Harper gets healthy. Yeah. That lineup is going to be stupid in Philadelphia. Like it is going to be tough to watch. In the Mets too. I mean, the Mets got so damn good. I think if I had one team that I'm going to go and buy a ticket to go and see it, it'll be Philly. Because that lineup is just absolutely insane.
Yeah, but like the Dream Team lineup, they don't have the pitching. They really. I just don't think they do. But heck, the fucking hitting got them to the goddamn almost the promised land. Yeah, I mean that'd be good to see them against the Phillies. I really, if I wanted to see the Cubs play a team, I'd say the Mets. And for this reason, I think the weak part of the Cubs team which hasn't been for years, is the position players. I don't think that lineup is going to be good enough. I think your pitching staff is okay could be very good. I don't see how this lineup is great. I don't see how it's very good. I see how it could be average if you have a couple people excel, but I don't see them being in the top 5 offenses. Do you? This year, or the NFL, of just the NL. Let's just take the NL.
The Cubs?
Yes.
No.
The strength of their team is their pitching. Not to say it's a giant strength, but I would say they're better in pitching than they are in.
So when it comes to,
and I'm sorry we're taking away from your text battle you have going.
No, it's actually my other fantasy baseball draft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've been doing
fantasy baseball.
What do you mean? I'm in like 6 leagues.
I'm worried about your time that you're devoting to this podcast.
Dude, I'm in 6 fantasy baseball leagues.
Are you kidding me? It's 100. No. I was in a fantasy baseball league. I couldn't handle it.
Dude, I love it. Even fantasy baseball, fantasy football, I play all the time. This Cubs lineup, to me, it can't be. It could be. I don't see it. I mean, if all the stars align like they did in 2016, all of a sudden everybody's healthy, everybody's playing above what their expectations are, and things they just can't do no wrong, then sure they could be a top 5 offense. But I don't see it with this lineup. I really don't. I hope Dansby Swanson is the Dansby Swanson of the last 2 seasons.
Oh, he will. I
really do. Cody Bellinger, I hope Cody Bellinger returns to 50 to 70% of the Cody Bellinger we saw in 2019. I hope that Trey Mancini doesn't
have cancer.
Yeah, doesn't have cancer, and I hope that Trey Mancini is a guy who can hit 250 and who can hit you 20 to 30 bombs.
Is he?
I hope that he's that guy. No, he's a starting DH. He's your DH. Your starting first baseman's Eric Hosmer, which is another question mark, right? Like, which Eric Hosmer are you getting? Are you getting the Eric Hosmer of the San Diego Padres? Or are you getting Eric Hosmer who was a Kansas City Royal? Or are you getting the guy who's in between?
God, was he good on that team?
Yeah, like
great defensive first baseman too.
Isaiah Suzuki. Isaiah Suzuki, what he was or was supposed to be when you got him out of Japan. Like, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field, or are we resigned to the Luis Robert treatment with him?
God, the Cubs, Japanese.
Shohei Ohtani.
You haven't done well.
Until Shohei Ohtani. We got Kosuke Fukudome.
Does Shohei...
who the only reason why the fans loved Fukudome was because his last name in English is "fuck you, do me." Yeah. So they loved wearing that jersey. They have not done well in the Japanese market. They really haven't. They've missed on just about every player.
Like the Sox have had a rousing excess. Tadahito Gucci is one of their best second basemen in my lifetime, though, other than Ray Durham, maybe. But
and they've also got the kid that they just the kid that they were looking at. They haven't signed me yet, but they're looking at another kid out of Japan. I can't remember his damn name. He looks pretty damn good though.
We forget names on this show. That's
what I do. I forget.
Not accurate. Names. We call people different names. Sometimes, we call like let's say Jalen Carter. Sometimes we'll call him Jalen Freeman.
Jalen Freeman, yeah.
Because we're thinking about Morgan Freeman.
Oh my God! All right, so give me a hand here. I'm in my 286th pick.
Go. Bring it up.
Do I want? I can't bring it up. You can't see the phone on the sign. I got
to figure it out. We'll get our production staff on it.
We are the production staff. Jared Kelenic. Do you want Kelenic from Seattle or Yastrzemski from San Francisco? Who would you take? Yastrzemski
doesn't exist. He's an older player. Like, what are you making up, guys? No,
Yastrzemski. It's his nephew.
I'll take Yastrzemski. I know. I'll take Yastrzemski
over Kelenic.
Just because
all right.
Hawk Harrelson spent so much of my youth talking about Carl Yastrzemski, I have to take his nephew.
So since you took Yastrzemski, I drafted Kelenic because I think that's a better pick.
You're not a good person. You're not a good person, and I'm going to say this: you only like the White Sox for the food.
Ooh, did you see the thing I tagged you in the other day?
Oh my God,
we got to take up a game because that looks like
my wife, and now she's like, yes, some of those dishes, man,
dude, they look so good. So
it's really crazy. They went up another level here. The White Sox Park or whatever, guaranteed rate, whatever, like you said, whatever you want to call it.
Arrow pointing down.
It's
arrow pointing downfield.
You can't help yourself. That is one of my favorite restaurants in Chicago. It's White Sox Field. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Have you had their cube in there?
I have not.
Oh man,
So I went to.
it is really good.
It's fun. I
Really,
went to a
really
lot of
good.
baseball games last year, but 9 of the 10 games I went to were Cubs games. I only went to one Sox game last year, and it was because I got tickets like 8 rows behind home plate. I found the tickets for $25 a piece.
Yeah.
But it was in April, and it was like 12 degrees when we went. It was so cold. And this year already, like I'm going to a Cubs game on April 9th. I'm going April 10th. I'm going April 23rd and May 8th. Like, so in the first 5 weeks, I'm going to 4 or 5 Cubs games. I do want to make it out there, though. I did not eat when we went to that game because it was so cold that by the time I brought anything back to my seat, it was already frozen. So I want to hit some of those places, man. Some of that stuff looked delicious. Absolutely delicious.
I was gonna present a couple of them, but I can't get the button to work. But they do have, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and the
Corn dog covered in elote. I don't know about that. You'll
dude,
take anything.
that sounds so good. Yeah, that corn dog and elote though. That, oh my god, dude, I love
My
elotes.
wife loves
man.
elotes. Yeah.
Oh, dude, we got a place that's right down the street from us where you can go get an elote in a cup. Oh man, dude, it's so good. It's so good. I can't get that spicy stuff on it though. You got to keep that red stuff off of it. Yeah, I'm not a spicy guy. I don't like spicy.
What?
Yeah, I like spicy in the bedroom,
All
not in my food.
We have you seen the show Hot Ones?
No, I never heard of it.
Another podcast you haven't heard of? Hot Ones is a show where people eat chicken wings with hot sauce on them.
Oh god, no.
And celebrities, no. Back up. Brandon, you're an ex-fucking Marine. You shat in a hole for 4 years.
I did.
Come on. And
there's no such thing as an ex-Marine, though.
It afterwards.
Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Why do they burn it afterwards? Yes, you're right. You're always a Marine. I agree with that. I get it. I know a few Marines, so I get it. You guys are all kind of weirdly the same.
I just can't do hot stuff, man. I can't.
We were gonna do a Hot Ones episode for the do it for the podcast.
I am not. No, I will watch you and I will laugh.
That no,
as you're sweating.
I'm isolating that no, and then I'm gonna play it over and over again because that no was kind of feminine.
No. Look, I do a little bit of kick, but like some of the stuff, like when you eat something,
you can say no. Well, my wife will set it all up. Nicole, by the way, we'll set it all up. We'll have a tray, and you can say no anytime you want. And
you're gonna have like a bitch button or something. Like anytime I say no, you're gonna play a bitch. Like you're gonna play something.
I won't pressure you at all.
Yeah, right.
You don't have to get rushed to the hospital. But I do have an emergency room literally a block away from me.
Francis, all right, we're gonna do this live on the air. I'm gonna give you my best hot wing story. You ready?
Here we go.
So there's a place in North Carolina, which I can't mention for obvious reasons. I'm not allowed to.
This sounds like the start of a country western song.
They have these wings called they have these wings and they're called suicide wings. And when they deliver them to you, you have to sign a contract that they are not responsible for anything that happens when you eat the wings. Now, that in itself should tell you should not eat this shit, right? That in itself says something bad might happen. So a couple of the guys were eating them. And, it was a Super Bowl party. We're all having a good time. I got the honey barbecue because I'm not doing suicide wings. And a friend of mine was there with his girlfriend, and they disappeared into the back for a little bit. And about 5 minutes later, she came running out of the room, screaming and crying. Yeah, into a spare bedroom. Okay. And she came out screaming and crying, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" He's like, "Dude, I have no idea what happened." I'm like, and I'm thinking like he did something to her, or broke up with her, or something, right?
Or Clevengered her.
Well, I sat back down and I started eating my wings, and I thought to oh my God. I said, dude, did you wash your hands after you ate those wings?
Oh, yeah.
And he did not. And it caused second-degree blisters on her.
Wow. Where at? Yeah.
In the hoo-ha.
In the Serena Williams and Shohei Ohtani area?
In her Sierra Mist. Like, it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wear contacts, and I've done that where I've taken my contacts out and even washed my hands, and it doesn't matter sometimes with that shit, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, that.
Blisters?
Yeah.
How do you go? Well, that's an ER story.
That's definitely. I'm sure there was a whole lot of stories after that, but I can't do that type of stuff. Like, if it did that to her, what did it do while you were eating it? How do you like enjoying eating it?
I'm thinking, because the internet is undefeated, that there is a fetish for that. I'm thinking there's a fetish for that.
God.
Hot sauce.
We
talking about sports.
we need to get out of here. I'm ending the show. That's it. Join us again next week for another Fizgibberish. We're going to talk some more sports. We've got baseball season will be upon us. Yeah. We will be able to talk Major League Baseball next week, I should say. And we will start really diving into the Bears draft coming up on April 27th. We will be live at Bourbon Street. Till then, Windy City Sports Talk fans,